Welcome to the Chi for Two podcast. We're a group of Chi for Two embodiment coaches that look at pop culture with a Chi for Two lens. My name is Chelsea.
My name is Fred.
My name is Kat.
And this is the Chi for Two podcast. Chi for Two is a mindful embodiment method.
We borrow the term chi to indicate the energy in and around our bodies.
For two refers to how our chi, our life force energy, is affected by our two-person interaction.
Oh, and today we're talking about a song from the wonderful Disney movie Encanto. Surface Pressure is the song, and one of the characters from Encanto, Louisa, is the one singing it. She's the older sister. She's the strong older sister. And Cas brought this song into our sphere after we had kind of a week where we all felt like we needed to take a break. I know it stemmed from all kinds of things, but Cas, would you like to tell the audience what inspired you to choose this song?
It just seems like a perfect one for encouraging people to slow down a little bit and just really exploring the feeling of, like, if you feel all this pressure to be or do or have all this on your shoulders, that's really immobilizing. It forces you to dissociate, to not access parts of yourself that would like to cry out and say, no, I want to not do that. And so Louisa really wants to be her whole self, and here on the podcast, as much as possible, we would like to be our whole selves and hold our own circles of support and hold space for the audience to explore the idea of being their whole selves and having access to as much movement as possible. So sometimes that means saying, no, not today. I'm not able to do that today, and let's do some self-care and come back and try again later. So it's about a family in a small magical village called the Encanto. That this family, the Madrigals, is like a family that has magical powers. So in the beginning, the grandmother had triplets with her husband Pedro, and then I didn't, it's not clear in the movie, but we also have like the youth novelization of it. So we read it to Matilda. And apparently the night that the triplets were born, the very night, there was some unrest in their village and some violence happening. So they had to flee their home. And as like a bunch of the townspeople are going, some people on horses, maybe soldiers of some kind, I don't know, are coming for them. So Pedro turns around and sacrifices himself so that everybody else can get away. And so Abuela Alma, and she's not an abuela yet, but she has her triplets with her, and she's very, very sad. But the candle she's holding starts to glow brighter, and there's all this magic, and the Encanto is formed around them, a safe space for them all to exist. And then their house is like alive, and and when the children reach the age of 5, in the movie it says when they come of age, and in the little book it says when they're 5. And I'm like, ooh, coming of age at 5. No wonder there's a surface pressure song, because if already at 5 you have magical powers and are responsible for taking care of the community and the family, then that's a lot of pressure. But yeah, so they each have different powers. They get like a magical door and a special room, and the triplets are Tia Peppa. She controls the weather. There's the song at the beginning is so great, and we're not doing that song, but it really sets up everything so well. So Fred, when you do see it, you'll be delighted. I just know it. She controls the weather, so when she's upset, there's storms and stuff. And then there's Julieta. That the main character is Mirabel. She's Julieta's youngest daughter. Julieta has the power to heal people with the food that she cooks. And then Bruno can see the future. He has visions of the future, and nobody talks about Bruno. There's a song called "We Don't Talk About Bruno." and it's also very good. And so he's left the family. He's disappeared, and people don't talk about him. And then she has some cousins. Tia Pepa and Tio Felix have three kids. Dolores can hear really well, so there's no secrets when she's around. Camilo can shapeshift, which is an interesting one. Um, he does it to be helpful around town, but also that's weird. But anyway, and then Antonio is the very youngest, and he's 5, and he's going to get his power that day. The
Hmm.
problem is that Mirabelle was the last one to have that ceremony where she gets the power, and she doesn't get one. So now there's all this doubt in the family about what's going to happen with the magic. Her older sisters are Luisa, who is the one that's the subject of this song. She's the singer in this song. She is very, very strong. So she can like move buildings. She can reroute rivers. She is supposed to go, go, go and has, a lot of responsibility. The middle sister is Isabella, and she can create flowers and any plant, it seems, but she focuses on flowers at the beginning of the movie, just being perfect and pretty. So there's a big family, and Mirabelle doesn't have a power. She doesn't know exactly where she fits in, um, but she can see that there are cracks in the walls and in the foundation of the home, that there are things that are not being, that aren't being handled, that aren't being addressed. They're secrets. And so she's trying to talk to Luisa because Dolores said that Luisa's eye was twitching all night before, and Dolores could hear it because her hearing's really good. So she's going right before the song plays, um, before Luisa sings the song. Mirabelle's like asking questions like, "Are you okay? Like, I heard you're not. I heard you're like nervous about something. What's going on? Is there a problem with the magic?"
I think if we take the song paragraph by paragraph, I think that might be fun.
Starts off Louisa saying, I'm the strong one. I'm not nervous. I'm as tough as the crust of the earth is. I move mountains, I move churches, and I glow because I know what my worth is. I don't ask how hard the work is. Got a rough, indestructible surface. Diamonds and platinum, I find them, I flatten them. I take what I'm handed, I break what's demanded. But under the surface, I feel berserk as a tightrope rocker on a three-ring circus. Under the surface, was Hercules ever like, yo, I don't want to fight Cerberus? Under the surface, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service. A flaw or a crack, the straw in the stack that breaks the camel's back. What breaks the camel's back? I resonated with this because I happen to be also an oldest child, right? Four
Mhm.
younger siblings. We all grew up in the same house, the same two parents, just for the clarity. And being the first sometimes, almost always, indicates or the expectation is that you kind of lead. You kind of are the one that sets the example for your siblings. And oftentimes we see parentification. You're the oldest. Make sure you look after your siblings afterwards. Now, I don't think that's necessarily, Louisa isn't saying that, but, it's something that, Chiva 2 enables us to help families look at in terms of, hey, you know, siblings are one generation, and we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to be one generation as peers and on the same level. Strong one, not nervous, tough as the crust of the earth. The need to be the person that everybody comes to, that to move mountains and move churches. Now, again, I saw those two lines and I was like, I think I know some magic. It's supposed to be obviously it's a children's cartoon movie, so what does that really mean, right? But she actually can physically move mountains and churches via the magic. Um, but the movement of mountains in general is kind of a saying that says, these gargantuan tasks that, are probably very difficult. I'm the one that does it. I can do it. I can go above and beyond what most people can and address this big deal thing. And, as a child, there's some things to be said there. Move churches, that was a very significant one for me, just in terms of like the cultural conversation around church, religion, and like whether or not it has, how helpful or harmful it has been to various communities, which religion, all those things that we could be, a whole nother 3 or 4 podcasts on. But here's where I really like what it began to say as far as the message. I glow because I know what my worth is. There are a lot of adults that have an issue with that, like self-worth. Am I a yes person? And to my own detriment because I want everyone to still like me. And I'm so rigid and cold that I push people away, but then I complain about not having friends. Like these are things that help, the whole self understanding. And I glow because I know what my self-worth is. I think people that we encounter that have that, we can kind of see the glow. Um, I don't ask how hard the work is, got a rough, indestructible surface. I think that we go and go and go, and we want to think that we are indestructible, but often life will enable us to recognize how destructible we can be, or how vulnerable we can be, how imperfect we can be due to our humanity. And it is the process of recognizing that is okay to not be perfect. I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service. That was huge for me because it reminds me often what Dee teaches us in terms of a lot of people, often caregivers that are often women. There's a saying, I'm not living if I'm not giving. And oftentimes that is, to our detriment. We are the person everybody leans on, but who do we lean on? We don't have to, our worth should not be tied to what we do for others and how we extend ourselves and how much we don't pour into ourselves.
Yeah, Lisa's define it's like the first part of the song, she's defining herself, explaining to us how she defines herself. I'm the strong one, and all that. And that is how she defines her worth. Um, but under the surface, there's a whole lot happening that nobody sees. It's so fun how in the animation, like how vast everything gets under the surface. There's so much space at times for her to look small because in the real world, I guess, out there, she looks so big. And she's yeah, so it's interesting to see all of that and how much thought and they did such a great job with this movie.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think yeah, who does she turn to? Ideally, she would be able to turn to her parents, and her parents would be able to turn to Abuela Alma, um, or she could just turn to her grandmother, but her grandmother is really distracted because she's sensing that there is something going on with the magic, but she doesn't know what to do. So she's telling everybody outwardly that there's nothing wrong. So she's kind of doing the same thing that Luisa is sort of acting out, um, as happens in families. That when the kids are having a problem, it's really just a sign of what is going on within the family system. So since Abuela Alma is not able to catch for anyone, then all of this stuff is happening internally and doesn't have an outlet. What's really kind of interesting is that Mirabelle just asking her and seeing her helps Louisa start processing all of it. So having a peer on her side, um, doing this, like I don't think Mirabelle doesn't it. I'm trying to remember in the movie because I remember when I first saw this, I was really angry because I'm like, where are the elders? What are they doing? What are these elders doing? Why is it all up to the kids? But how Mirabelle ends up going along to like her siblings and doing this. So like the other sister gets a song and helping them find and notice their whole self. And I think she does it like on their side. She's not catching. She's just really excited that they're able to do this work. So that's kind of nice to see. But yeah, we can keep looking at lyrics. I do think the Hercules Cerberus thing relates back to the being able to say no, that you want to take a break, that I was talking about. Oh, and I forgot to mention the setting, Fred. It's set in Colombia.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's
Perfect.
sort of like a Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I don't know if you're familiar with that author, but he was like an author, a Colombian author that did like magical realism. So stories like this about like families is really exploring family dynamics and politics. Isabel Allende does this, so she's from Chile. So
Hmm.
Mm.
for
Okay.
if anybody's interested, very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
It sounds like Louisa is exploring all these ideas of like I have to be the strong one. I feel worthless without serving, but then is realizing as she's singing, wait, I if I could shake the crushing weight of expectations, would that free up some room for joy, for star and for play dance, it sounds like. And so she's kind of just exploring these ideas of where could I put it, and knowing it was her sister on her side during this, so like with her peer on her side, starting to make these like realizations and awakenings, and I'd be curious to see where it goes and what happens. Where does it go? What does happen?
Yeah. Yeah. What breaks the camel's back? It's pressure like a drip, drip, drip that'll never stop. Pressure that'll tip, tip, tip till you just go pop. Give it to your sister. Your sister's older. Give her all the heavy things we can't shoulder. Who am I if I can't run with the ball? If I fall to pressure like a grip and it won't let go. Pressure like a tick, tick till it's ready to blow. Give it to your sister. Your sister's stronger. See if she can hang on a little longer. Who
Oh,
am I if I can't carry it all?
the pressure that'll tip until you pop, and that reminds me of the emanations. And where do you go when you leave the lap and you're on your own exploring the world, and then your bubble pops?
What Chelsea's referring to is in T for Two, we have a concept called the lap circle of support. And that is when we are born or when we're actually toddling. Um, we are in the lap of our parent first, and then they enable us to go out into the world. We have our bubble to travel, explore,
Oh, you
and
got
then
it.
as soon as something happens to us, in this particular case, at that age, my sibling took my toy or my bottle's empty, something like that. So our bubble pops, and then we go back into the lap of the caregiver. As adults, Shiva 2 offers the redo of enabling us to find practices or find solutions in order to help us regenerate our own bubbles, right? And so in this case, a dad that, a son brought home, a child brought home a less than great report card, and dad overreacts and yells. His own bubble popped, and he likely popped the bubble of his child, but his own bubble pops. And so, in a way to kind of recognize that there is time he can take for himself to bring his own nervous system into regulation through various things. Then there is a reconciliation and say, hey, look, I didn't have, well, I didn't keep my own, self in check. So I want to make sure that I address it, whether it be apology, whether it be more examples of the right way to do it. I think that might be a good example of like how we apply that.
If you have a lot of academic pressure, that might be too much, defining your value by what grades you're getting. It sounds like in that example, the dad had a lot of academic pressure in his youth, perhaps, and that's why being, this our kids aren't making us feel a certain way. Our kids are bringing up what was already there. So the child coming home with a report card that's less than stellar, brings up a time when the dad was pressured to make A's or he was not a good kid. And then we have ideas of whether we're good or bad. And those are not useful ways of describing ourselves and having these dichotomies of like one or the other. We're great. We have value. We're inherently valuable just because we exist. And we're special because we're us. And we're the best at being ourselves. So the dad had some big stuff coming up, probably wanting to push against his own parents about, hey, no, I want to find me. So we would in session try to find the movement that like the child might want to do. Like if everybody's bubbles pop, does the child want to, you know, let's see, scream, and may do a sound expression because I have my sound and I am me and I'm filling up the space around my body and that was not okay. And getting to do mouthing consonants about it, having teeth directed at the parents. And so being able to offer all of that to the parent. You didn't get to do this with your parents when you were little. So it's coming up now. What a great opportunity to get a redo. And then the parent can invite the child to give that a try, see how it goes.
Does Louisa ever get her feelings caught? Does she ever get to relax?
So it's actually kind of comical through the movie. She's like, I'm a loser. And like, but they do it in a funny way. And she's like crying about like, she just can't lift this piano anymore. She can't even lift the plate at one point. She's like, ah. But at the end, everybody, that the house gets completely rebuilt. They rebuild it together and she's able to relax and, she, yeah, she does find that. I don't know that. I think that it's not like they show like Abuela Alma going around and being able to catch more effectively, but she has a much different energy. She's there for people's reach, I think, more and feels less like tight and like this with everybody, like you have to do it this way or the magic's gone. Like she doesn't have that anymore.
That's good.
It would be fun to rewatch it for a zillionth time and really look at how her movements change. I mean, so Abuela Alma in the beginning is like, I can see, but she's like got her hands like this a lot, and she just walks really straight, and she doesn't have a lot of expression, um, except when, and she's so relieved when Antonio gets his gift, so it seems like the magic is okay. But otherwise, she's very stiff and she's always on edge. So she hasn't dealt with that. By the end, it's much better.
So yeah, I mean, overall, I do think that like there is something to be said around like the ideas of what we should be doing or we think we should be doing and how we put pressure on ourselves. But I do also think that as children, it makes sense for the elder to be helping to remove some of that pressure or to relieve it or at least hold it for that person. It's not, this is not an indictment against my parents when I say this, but when I saw babysitters collecting funds, I'm like, hold on, let me collect these funds. I can look after my siblings, but it was a matter of like in that particular time and place, it was like, okay, sure. But having grown up, it was, I now know it's like, maybe once or twice, but it being like my default job, there's give and take, right? And again, I can't indict anybody for their parenting choices, especially since I'm never going to be one. So, but again, Louisa illustrates like the not necessarily the plight of the older sibling, but how family dynamics work and oftentimes where different, influences and or expectations fall based on birth order, based on gender also. There are things that definitely influence what we think and expect from people in those two different ways. And so I love the song, you know, I'm strong and I'm nervous, but nobody can tell that I'm berserk over here, and so I love the illustration and the opportunity to discuss how she for two can be of service to someone like that.
Hmm. That was interesting, hearing about how the family rebuilt the house at the end all together. And that's like, what a dream that would be to be able to rebuild that with your family. And I just don't see that. We just don't really see that in our society where we get a chance to redo and like accept and heal. So it sounds like they did a lot of healing. Like that's what we want. And that's what Chief or Two is working towards. But right now, it's like we were just talking about the woes of our parents and how it's failing. And like I don't know, I love the imagery and the idea of like us rebuilding our houses. together. I think it's beautiful, and I guess we do that in a way where we choose our partners, and we have children or not, and we decide this is my family, my new family system, and this is what I'm deciding to do and how to rebuild it myself, and that's giving your chi back, your energy back, and your power back. So I appreciate that imagery.
And it is really, it's a hard thing. To wish to wish that everybody in your life had a handle on their stuff enough that they could, if their peers be on your side, like your siblings, your parents could catch for you and be able to do things in a new, more ideal way where everybody feels safe in their bodies. Um, and the work that we do, it can be, I know I have felt, and it sounds like Chelsea, you are feeling this frustration with your elders, and they're not able to catch for you the way that would be satisfying. And for me, my parents not being able to do that at all and going through a sort of grieving period that comes, it isn't just one thing and then it's done. It happens over and over. That what I'm able to do for myself shifts the way that I interact with my siblings, shifts the way that I interact with my parents. That even though it doesn't become what is most ideal necessarily, not as magically as it does in Encanto, it does make a difference. At least it can help offer a framework for, am I crazy? Am I the crazy one? Because this is crazy making. Um, but really like, no, this is what I'm feeling and it's valid. This is what's going on in my body and my nervous system. And this is the work that I can do with my coach to strengthen my hula hoop and my bubble and be able to handle myself in a world of all these things I cannot control. Like Lisa has been tasked with working or to try to stave off disaster in a world where a lot of that stuff is just things that she cannot control, and to be hyper vigilant about what might happen, a tsunami or hitting an iceberg, and feeling like she needs to turn this big boat all by herself, and it's not possible. That in the end, Mirabelle being able to see clearly and be on the side of her peers and speak her truth to her grandmother is able to shift the dance. And they don't have their powers when they're rebuilding the house either. They're really just feeling into what their particular skills are, what their specialness is to contribute to rebuilding the house without any powers, just them being them. When they're rebuilding the house, the community that they felt like they had to take care of and serve, it is actually shows up at their door well, they don't have a door anymore, but shows up at the property and says, well, look, we're your neighbor. We're gonna help you. Like that's what we do. You're not alone. And I think that helps reposition, help them understand, like maybe you were saying with the power differentials and stuff, Fred, that like the family wasn't like some wealthy family that like was better than and above, but served as servant leaders of the community necessarily, that maybe they could be peers, that actually might have been a more healthy, a more ideal way of seeing things that takes the pressure off of them doing anything in particular to save everybody, that really they're all helping one another. They're just another family on the Encanto. But I don't know if everybody would agree with that. I think it's interesting because I think in a lot of stories and in real life, there's a family that has more. This family has magic power, so they're thought of like as better than, and I just really like that touch about the community showing up. And
Yeah, I think it's also a good reminder to recognize the need, recognize that help is out there if you ask for it, as like, as an adult. Yeah. When you live within a family system, obviously it's there and they can probably see you need help and you may not have to ask us directly, but it is important to know that you don't have to do it alone. Your village could look like a number of different things. It might not be all related. It might not even be geographic, but there are people in your life that you could probably call and count on. And just reminding us reminding ourselves of that we don't have to walk this earth alone if we, don't so choose.
Those people that feel like they don't have anyone, can, that can happen. I mean, the world that we live in does have technology that allows people to be connected in ways that weren't possible decades ago, but also can feel really isolating at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Chi for Two offers, because it's so much about the nervous system and how we interact with one another, and how important it is to be able to meet in person sometimes, or sniff people out, or via Zoom here, at least being able to get some of our senses engaged to really feel connected, and also understanding how hard that is because of multi-generational trauma. So validation for how hard that is, but offering that it might be a really useful path for us continuing into the future as a society, being able to reach when we need to reach for somebody. Who do we reach to? How hard is it to do that reach, grab, pull? It's super hard sometimes when that movement has been inhibited, getting to practice it. And so that it's easier being able to engage with peers, doing safe share, so that it doesn't feel like you're vomiting all over peers, because that can be really, that can be like, well, make it hard to maintain relationships. And so, it's okay to have big sensations, but as long as you have a place to take them and then practice being able to catch for yourself, then it can be easier to dance with others.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast. If you have any questions, please email us at chi42podcast@gmail.com. Each of us are available for one-on-one coaching or couples coaching, and you can reach us at that email. Thank you. I'm Chelsea.
I'm Fred.
I'm Cass.
We'll catch you next time.